It's almost time for another debate. I can't wait. In just 4 days, Paul Ryan will debate the man he wants to replace in the White House, Vice President Joe Biden. And while the two have never met in a debate, we did get a sneak peek back in 2010 during the battle over health care. Watch this.
I've got to tell you, the American people are engaged. And if you think they want a government takeover of health care, I would respectfully submit you're not listening to them.
So will that experience help Ryan Thursday night? Joining me now is presidential historian and author of the book, What Does the President Look Like? Jane Hampton Cook. Nice to see you this morning, Jane. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So what does Paul Ryan need to do? I was talking to Huckabee about this yesterday a little bit, which is, Paul Ryan has a tendency to come off as a little wonky, and also Vice President Biden has a tendency to come off as a little folksy and perhaps flies off the handle a little bit with some things off script. So what do the two need to do next week to be effective?
Ryan needs to keep that momentum going, and he needs to explain their policies and their points of view in a very clear, concise way, which you've heard him do in sound bites on different media interviews. Biden, yes, needs to not make a gaffe, and he needs to make up for some of the mistakes that his boss made last week. He needs to seem engaged. He needs to answer those hard questions without being defensive. And so they both have challenges going in, but it should be a really great debate.
And it was interesting, if you look back as a historian, in 2008, of course, and beyond, but even Vice President Biden, then candidate Biden, really crushed Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton in the debates. He was the one who was winning those debates.
He is a very strong debater, and I am sure that that's the Biden that will show up this week. But part of the problem that a president and a vice president faces is that they can get very insulated very easily. They speak to crowds that adore them.
Right.
They aren't often challenged with tough questions from reporters sometimes, as we've seen lately. I think that is a big challenge for Biden this go around.
Historically, the vice presidential debates, I think, in fact, maybe have yielded a lot more entertaining moments than even the presidential debates. And some people even think that these things stand out more than those debates. Lloyd Bentsen, Dan Quayle, 1988. We'll play this great moment and have you to respond here. See if we're going to see any of these this week. Take a look.
Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
That was a fierce moment.
That was a strong zinger and perhaps the most memorable moment from a vice presidential debate. Often a vice presidential debate is about assurance. Can the second person on the ticket become president and step in if need be? You got to remember, in 1988, who had been president? Ronald Reagan, a very senior statesman. Lloyd Bentsen had been in the Senate 17 years. Dan Quayle, 7 years. That was about gravitas and the senior statesman versus the young new guy upstart. This time it's different because Barack Obama was in his 40s when he became president. And even though Joe Biden is 3 decades older than Paul Ryan, that issue is muted a little bit.
Interestingly, in 2008, then candidate Biden, vice presidential nominee at the time, had to walk a very delicate balance with Sarah Palin, right? He had to be respectful of her on the stage, but he also had to be strong. A lot of people thought it was kind of a tie at the end of that debate. Wherever you stand on it doesn't really matter. But here is a little clip from that, and we'll get you to respond to this moment.
You voted for the war, and now you oppose the war. You're one who says, as so many politicians do, I was for it before I was against it, or vice versa. Americans are craving that straight talk and just want to know, hey, if you voted for it, tell us why you voted for it. You also said that Barack Obama was not ready to be commander-in-chief, and I know, again, that you opposed the move that he made to try to cut off funding for the troops, and I respect you for that. I don't know how you can defend that position now.
So, remember, Saturday Night Live, of course, made fun of the fact that she didn't want to answer her own questions. She was asking questions of Joe Biden instead of listening to the moderator. That was a pretty interesting moment there.
It was. She was attacking the record, and that is what you'll see both do in this next debate. Ryan will attack the current record of the president, and Biden will attack Ryan for his positions as well.
Jane Hampton Cook, presidential historian. Great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Great perspective.
Thanks for having me.